We are back for yet another interview with one of the members of the cdoom team. This time it is with, if I'm pronouncing this correctly, Shane Trewartha, otherwise known as GuyBrave. And I just sent him the link to the meeting, and hopefully he'll be joining soon.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
How's it going?
Good.
I might just... So, it's weird. In the camera setup screen prior to this, the field of view is completely different. So, I just spent a minute adjusting it to that, and now it's all different.
Yeah, in my experience with this system, it's much wider than the preview. So I just expanded your view on my side, and you're nice and wide.
Oh, okay, right. Okay. Is it framed okay?
Yeah. Yeah, my God. You have so much cool stuff.
Cheers. Yeah, I recently started streaming, and so I had to make sure my background was interesting to look at. Actually, for this, I should probably... So, I don't know if that makes any difference or not, but a place called Limited Run Games recently did a physical copy of the original Doom again, and it came in this fancy box that lights up.
Oh, that is so
it
cool.
Also... Oh no, I don't think I can stop that now.
That's fine.
Right.
That could be our soundtrack.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. I love that.
So,
how do you
want to...
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Shane Trewartha, otherwise known as GuyBrave.
Yes. Not many people get the pronunciation of the last name right first go.
So,
so...
It's been a long time, dude. Long time.
It really has. I was trying to work it out this morning. I had a quick look on the wiki just before this to see if... Just jog my memory what year it came out in it, and it wasn't listed on the wiki.
Oh.
So...
I can give you the timeline.
Yeah, cool. I figured you'd probably have all that info at hand.
Yeah. So we released version 1.0 December 9th of 2005. So
right. Okay, cool. That helps a little bit with the time frame in my mind. I couldn't quite remember if it was 2005 or 2006.
Yeah, cuz it got, for some reason, there must have been some bugs or issues that we just kept working on. So after 1.0, I just don't remember much after 1.0, but I remember I continued on in the forums to just offer feedback, perspective, whatever, and we continued working on it for 7 months, and in July of 2006 we released 1.1.
Right.
So...
Yeah, I don't think I was really involved in a whole lot after initial release, so that's probably why my memory on that is fuzzy.
Sure. So, So I think I can just kind of skip to the questions, and I think that'll guide a lot of our conversation.
Okay.
Why don't you tell us your name, and then your screen name, and any fun stories you have about how the heck you came up with that one.
Okay, so my full name is Shane Trewartha, and the screen name that I went by back when we made Doom 3 Classic was GuyBrave, which was the name of this obscure Japanese PS1 game. But I've stopped using it over the years because it required too much explanation, and most people just thought I was stuffing up the name of the dude from Monkey Island, Guybrush, So these days I just go by Boing online. It's a lot
Boing.
simpler.
Okay.
Yeah. But yes, GuyBrave on the credits of Doom 3 Classic.
So the next question:
Yep.
Where are you from?
I'm currently from Melbourne, Australia. When we worked on the mod, I was living in Canberra. I'm originally from Canberra. But I've been living in Melbourne for almost exactly 10 years at this point. So, yeah, Melbourne's my home now.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, it was, out of all of the interviews so far, yours has been the most interesting to schedule.
Right.
When you first told me you were...
it's a little tricky, being on the other side of the world to basically everyone else.
Yeah. Yeah, it was interesting when we were working on the mod. I don't remember that being a real impediment to getting stuff done.
It wasn't, because, when you're sort of working online through forums and stuff, a lot of communication is asynchronous, so you just kind of, talk when you can. And also, I was a student at the time, so I pretty much lived between the hours of midnight and 4 a.m. anyways, so there was probably less noticeable time difference for most people.
I'm kind of curious, what was your background before joining the cdoom team?
Yeah, so as I just mentioned a minute ago, I was a student at the time. I'd always wanted to get into video games, and I had just sort of left having done most of a software engineering degree after discovering a school that we have here in Australia called AIE, the Academy of Interactive Entertainment, that did diplomas in specifically game development topics. And I'd always wanted to get into design and level design, but that's not, certainly 25 years ago, that wasn't something you could study. So I kind of did most of a software engineering course, then went and did an art course. And that whole time, and even when I was in high school and stuff, I was modding games, mostly Doom 1 and Doom 2, but a bunch of Unreal, a little bit of Quake, stuff like that. And so, yeah, even prior to working on Doom 3 Classic, I'd dabbled around in Doom 3. I was Doom was probably the most formative game in my life, and so when Doom 3 came out and I saw that it had level editing tools and stuff built in, I was all in, and from day one was just sort of messing around with that stuff. But yeah, the diploma in game art that I did ran from 2005 to 2006. And I've got really vivid memories of working on this project while I was a student. So I had a pretty good idea of when it was, but I couldn't remember if it was 05 or 06.
Yeah. I remember a lot of you guys were in university at the time, and I calculated it that I was 27 at the time.
Oh,
and,
really? Okay.
I was done with college, and I was married. I had a house. I was at a totally different point in my life.
Yeah, I definitely remember feeling like the young guy on the team, the newbie sort of kid who was trying not to annoy everyone else. I don't actually know what everyone else's backgrounds were, if any of the other team were professional game devs or if everyone was just hobbyists or what, but this was the first time that I felt even maybe a little bit out of my depth at the time, because I was still really green, still a first year student in game art, and I'm oh geez, I was counting my lucky stars that I was able to join this project.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure we all felt really lucky to be a part of it. But yeah, as far as professionally, no one was doing game dev. We were all kind of working on this with the hopes of getting. I think pretty much every one of us was working on this with the hopes of someday getting into the game development field.
Yeah, for sure.
I never did. The thing is, I was already years into a career of like electrical engineering and that kind of thing, and it would have been really tough to make a switch to a different career that was game development is probably a little bit more unstable than the field that I've been in.
Oh, it definitely is, yeah.
So
have you ever done any music stuff professionally outside of games?
Well, it's not like any studios have come to me and asked for music, but I have had I had a couple of Twitch streamers ask me if I could make covers of like a couple of songs from the games that they liked.
Okay,
and
cool.
That's probably the most money I ever made in one shot. Each of those songs. Other than that, I just kind of self-publish. I put stuff up on Spotify. Well, I publish it through CD Baby, and they put it everywhere. So, but the number one place it goes is Spotify. And I mean, I make some streaming revenue every month, but it's it's small.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm not rolling in the dough.
Yeah, there's probably very few people who work in games that are, to be honest.
Yeah. But I'm still known, like, I can't put something out with lyrics as Sonic Clang. I'm known as the game guy, the guy who does covers of game music.
Yeah. Interesting. Do you have a pseudonym for that? Or just do you, a different publishing name, or you just don't bother with it if you wanted to do lyric stuff?
I have only put out one song, maybe two, that have lyrics, and I just put them out as my Brian and Klein, just as my name.
Yeah,
and I only put them out on SoundCloud because when I released those, that was a decade ago, and I didn't know how to publish. I didn't know anything about self-publishing or any of that, so I just put them on SoundCloud, and they have like 200 or 300 streams. So, no one cares. No one cares about originals.
Yeah, true.
So, what? Another thing because I honestly I'm kind of unclear. What was your primary role on the team? Yeah,
so that was something I was thinking a lot about prior to this, because looking at the wiki again this morning, it's got me listed as a level designer, and I know I really wanted to join the team as a level designer. That was what I like. I didn't get on the team straight away. It took me a lot of sort of pitching to the main guys over what felt like months. I don't know how long it actually was, but I definitely remember sort of probably being that, like, annoying young guy, like, hey, can I join? Hey, can I join? Because, as I mentioned before, level design is kind of the area that I wanted to get into, and I felt like I could learn from the guys on this team, and I feel like I did a little bit. But honestly, what I remember working on the most, and I think this is what kind of tipped them over the edge to go, yeah, all right, you can join, was because I was doing a diploma of game art at the time. I was able to make custom meshes for everything. So I did all the new meshes for the pickups, like, the ammo and the shotgun shells and all that kind of stuff. And I did one or two of the first-person weapon models. I remember doing, I think, the rocket launcher. But also the replacement player model, which, even though that's the thing I remember working on the most and is probably my biggest contribution to the game, I cringe so hard when I look at it now because, like, I guess with, like, 16, 17 years of hindsight, and being a student with almost no experience at the time, looking back at that now, I'm like, oh my god, it's so bad. I could do so much better now. I can't believe they let that in the game. But yeah, I think I also probably did a bit of level stuff here and there. I didn't have any specific levels assigned to me, though. Like, I remember the levels were divvied up. This level is responsible for, this person is responsible for this level, this person is responsible for that level. And I don't think I had any directly assigned to me. I think I just sort of, like, dabbled in stuff here and there where it wouldn't interfere too much with any of the major sort of, like, stuff that was going on. I was also pretty involved in the sort of, like, beta testing for it and everything. I remember just doing a lot of playing the game, just end to end, and just taking screenshots of all the little bugs and problems and inconsistencies here and there. So yeah, that's my main memory of working on the game. Just sort of, like, I guess, bit of everything.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, so would you have been the one that made any textures, any custom textures that we would have put in the mod?
I don't think so. I mean, like, not, say, environment textures or materials, but all of the custom meshes that I made, like, I did the textures for them as well. So, like, the boxer shotgun shells, for example, I made the mesh and also the texture that went with it.
What about the exploding barrel?
No, that wasn't me.
Customized that? No?
No, I don't remember who that was.
I don't. I was hoping that was you. Because
damn, sorry.
There were, after we came up with the Flaming Sheep software name, I thought to myself one day it would be hilarious if there was a Flaming Sheep logo on the side of the exploding barrels. And I worked with someone or talked with someone, and the next time I played the mod, it was there.
Nice.
But no one else remembered it.
Oh, okay. I mean, maybe. I won't say definitely it wasn't me, but I will say that I don't remember if it was. It's entirely possible that it was me.
That's fine.
But I won't take credit for it just in case.
That's okay. I'll take credit for the idea, but I have no idea who put it in there.
Yeah.
So, do you remember, like, when you joined? Actually, I might know that, but let me.
It was pretty early on. I think there was only 2 or 3 levels.
Okay.
And not even finished when I joined. Because I was like, I basically lived on the Doom 3 World forums at the time. And so I was pretty on top of everything that was going on there. In fact, after this project, I tried to get involved in another big project that kind of ended up going nowhere. So I was really happy that this one actually did get finished and shipped. And so I would have noticed this one get announced probably from day one, and thought to myself, like, oh yeah, that's something I want to get involved with. So it would have been real early that I joined.
I think I actually...
That said, like I was saying before, my contributions were all just sort of around the edges, like a bit of this, bit of that.
Okay, I have you joining at in May of 2005.
That sounds about right, yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, yeah, I put together it's pretty cool. There's this website, TikiTaki.com. It's a really strange website for what it does, but you can put together really cool 3D timelines.
Ooh, cool.
Yeah, I'm planning on using this. 'Cause it's like it's flying down a road. You press the right arrow, it flies to the next one. And
really?
I've got got our logo or the classic Doom 3 picture in the background. It's really cool.
I'm definitely going to make a note of that to look it up. Tiki Toki.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah,
Okay.
and it's TIKI dash TOKI. Tiki
Okay,
Taki.
cool. I like the sound of that.
Yeah, so if it was May, there were probably 4 levels done by that point, probably
Okay.
up to
Yep.
E1M4, but
That
no
sounds
intro,
about right.
and the menu wasn't there
Yeah.
yet.
I remember the intro cutscene being finished really late in the piece. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if this is correct or not, but I remember it being like the last thing that went in.
That's probably accurate.
Yeah.
Brian Henderson did those. He came into the project probably around August, and
Right.
they were released in December. So I think he spent, and that's when I think I finished the music around August. And
Okay.
so when I finished with the music, I jumped over to recording voice acting
Yeah.
for the intro. And yeah. So how long would you say you worked on it? If you joined in May, how long do you think you worked on it?
I mean, I would say that I felt like part of the team right up until release.
Yeah.
I think the last major contribution I made to it, though, was the player character model, which went in pretty late because it wasn't needed for anything first person. So it was only really there to facilitate that intro cutscene. So I had to have that finished before that could be done. And man, I was still a first year student when I made that. I can't believe that I thought, I can take on the task of next genning the Doom guy.
Do you have any like any fun stories or anecdotes, anything from the development that stick out to you, or anything that's memorable, or maybe how it affected you personally?
Well, I mean, that's a tricky question to answer without preempting other questions I know you're about to ask later. So, it's been weird, actually, sort of like talking to people in the years since. Whenever I mention it, it kind of gets a better reaction than a lot of the stuff that I've worked on professionally, which is kind of cool.
That is really cool.
Yeah, but no, I mean, just for me, I guess it was a really sort of like formative turning point in my life / career of working on game stuff. As I mentioned already, I'd done a ton of like, you know, like just individual hobbyist modding stuff, but all the maps that I made for like Doom 1 and Doom 2, they were mainly just played by me and my friends. I think I published like maybe one of them online and no one played it. So it was a massive deal for me, like making something that people actually played. That was amazing.
Yeah.
And especially like even just sort of Doom 3 stuff. I had all of the Doom 3 maps I published on the Doom 3 World forums, and they got kind of, you know, mixed feedback. And there was that other big project that I mentioned that kind of didn't go anywhere. I think it was maybe too big and it collapsed under its own weight. So it was just an excellent experience being able to work on something that got finished and it turned out pretty decent. People liked it.
Yeah. You know, it's kind of interesting because I didn't think about it until you were just talking that putting out an individual level as Shane Trewartha, no one knows who you are.
Exactly.
Why are they going to play your level? That's like, people just... It has to be exceptional for people to care about an original work.
Yeah, for sure.
If it's so, people just don't care. Like when I put out an original song, people just don't care.
Yeah.
But if you put out a cover song, or in our case, redo a classic game, people like it. People are immediately drawn. It's kind of interesting. I was also thinking when you were talking about making levels for Doom and Doom 2.
Yeah.
I spent most of my teenage years making maps for Doom 1.
Yep.
And then when Quake came out, I jumped over to Quake and did jumped over to the real 3D. But I remember working on one level in particular that I thought was really cool, and I called it the Crossroads. And I really liked the military base look, but I wanted this level to look like it was sort of like the crossroads between a military base and then crossing over into like a demonic kind of gothic look. And I worked on it for months, and I had really cool secrets in it, which I thought were really neat. And at the time, the only place that I had to release any levels was some... I don't even know what you'd call it. It was like a file sharing thing on AOL.
Right, yeah.
I'm not even sure if you had AOL in Australia.
Barely.
Yeah. But the funny thing is, when I was testing this level, it was really big. It took a long time to get from the start to the end. So when I was testing before I released, and I wanted to test the end without having to go through the whole level, so I put a second player one start at the end, and whatever the last player one start you put in a level, that's the one you start from.
Right, yeah.
And so I tested it, and everything looked good, and I'm like, okay, cool, upload. And then I went on a vacation with my family. I get home from vacation, and I look at the comments, and people are like, this makes no sense. You start like in the middle of all the action, then you wander around and you find what looks to be the entrance, and it just, my heart sank. And I had the moderator delete it, and I re-uploaded it, but by that time the damage was done. So that was my one release of a Doom level.
Yeah, man, that's a tough one. That must have been pretty heartbreaking.
Oh yeah, and I was like maybe 16 years old. But yeah, then coincidentally, I only released one Quake level.
Right.
But that was actually pretty decent. I can't remember the name of the website, but there was a guy that would give it between between 0 and 5 Qs, like for Quake.
Right. Yeah.
And I got like the top rating, and
cool.
I got this level kicks ass.
Yep.
Review. That was pretty cool.
Nice.
Yeah. So fun times. Those were the days.
For sure.
Before responsibilities and life kicked me in the ass.
Yeah, I know, right?
So
before pandemics.
Right. Yeah, oh my god. Yeah. But because of the pandemic, now I can work from home, and I'm very thankful about that.
Yeah, for sure.
So you already mentioned that one project that you kind of got involved with that collapsed under its own weight. I was also part of projects before cdoom, going back to the 90s, part of total conversions or mods, and I knew how special and precious our mod was, and it's just like a minor miracle that we finished it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But after the modding kind of left your life, did you get a job in the gaming industry?
Yeah.
Do tell, because you might be the only one.
And I definitely give credit to having worked on this mod for contributing to at least my first 2 jobs in the industry. And I say first 2 jobs because one fairly universal truth about the games industry is it's not very stable. And so, like, you know, the chances of you sort of, like, getting a job straight out of uni or whatever and then just staying there until retirement, I don't know if that's ever happened to anyone. So I've been fortunate to have worked in the games industry the entire time since working on, a year after working on this mod.
Well, that's great.
Yeah, so that's coming up on 16 years at the end of this year. And I remember reading a little while ago that the average duration of someone working in the games industry is only 5 years. It has a pretty high attrition rate.
Wow.
So in that time, I've worked like a million jobs, a million different roles, lots of different studios. The main reason I'm down here in Melbourne now instead of Canberra is because the majority of the Australian industry is here in Melbourne. So my first job was as a level designer. My goal was always to work as a quote-unquote designer, even though back then I didn't really know what that meant. And so I got my first job doing level design on an FPS that nobody played. Like, literally, it was an online multiplayer-only thing, and I think only something like 36 or 37 people worldwide played it before we shut the servers down. Almost as many people worked on it as played it.
Oh, wow. What was it called?
Definitely... I don't know if
you don't have to say. That's
okay. It's... it's definitely not a highlight of my resume, that's for sure. cdoom definitely had a lot more players and a lot better reception than this game. But, like, getting to... Like, that wasn't the only game I worked on in that job. That job went for 2.25 years. And getting that job as a level designer for an FPS was definitely... the Doom 3 stuff that I did was... probably about 3/4 of the reason I got that job. I also had some Unreal stuff that I'd done as well. But
wow.
Doom 3 Classic was like it was pretty much the centerpiece of my resume at the time. And
that's awesome.
Cheers. The next job I got after that was at 2K Australia. So I did quality assurance on BioShock 2. And that was another one that I definitely... Part of the reason I got that job was from having this mod on my portfolio, and I could demonstrate all of the sort of QAing that I did while I was being the sort of like, the guy who hung around the edges and helped out here and helped out there. I definitely remember spending a lot of my time on this mod, just like taking screenshots and stuff, and helping the rest of the team with bugs. And so, it was definitely directly responsible for my first 2 jobs. These days, though, I've moved away from that sort of more, first-person, big end of town kind of games. I currently work as a level designer at a studio called Hipster Whale, which if you would know them, you would know them for their first game, Crossy Road. But yeah, that's what I'm currently doing.
Don't take me as a barometer of popularity, though, because I don't have time to play the games I know. So
yeah, I know, right? So once you start working in games, you just stop playing games. You just don't have time for it anymore.
I think the same goes for having kids, at least in my experience.
Yeah. I can believe that.
Well, that's awesome.
So there's been a lot of...
I'm really excited for you that I think it's great that the cdoom mod helped you get some jobs. Because that's what we were all going for. I think the rest of us sort of lost our drive to want to get into the industry. Like for me, our mod was like a dry run, a test run, and when we released it, I kind of felt, I think I got that out of my system.
Okay, right, yeah. Yeah, it was interesting. I think it gave me a really skewed expectation of what it was like to work on a team. And what I mean by that is, as we were sort of alluding to earlier, it wasn't necessarily... it's not a given that a project gets completed, right? And it was a pretty, I didn't realize it at the time, but looking back now, just how sort of rare an occurrence it was to have a team that was so committed to finishing what they started. Because even apart from mod projects or whatever, in the years since, all of the sort of strange directions that my career has taken me, it's been a combination of working in studios, but also working with small ragtag teams to try and do our own thing. And it's almost impossible to have a group of people with the right combination of skills work together with no other motivation than to just do the thing long enough to make it happen.
Yeah, I'd have to think even professionally it's tough to keep that motivation going.
Well, in a job, you've got the motivator of you get paid to be there, right? So if you don't show up and do your job every day, you get fired. But if you're trying to do something off your own back and just make it exist out of nothing, then there's very little motivation for people to stay other than just wanting to see it happen. And so, if anything takes more than a few months, people just sort of drift off and go, other stuff's come up, can't do this anymore, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially when all the easy stuff is front-loaded in the project.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything's fun to start off with when you're trying new stuff and you're like, oh, this is amazing, this is cool. All right, now we've got to actually finish the goddamn thing, and it's just it's just laying bricks after that. It's just more repetitive, samey stuff, and that's when people slog. Sort of drop off. Yeah.
Well, I really only have one more question.
Okay.
And then I have to go get dinner.
Sure.
With my family.
I'll go get breakfast.
This is wild. This is so cool. I can't wait to tell the other guys. And I will be sending you a link. I will be sending you a link to the Discord.
Cool.
They're going to just... What's your screen name on Discord, or your handle or whatever?
It's just Shane Trewartha.
Okay.
Yeah, because I mainly use Discord for... so the other sort of tangent that my career took was teaching game design for a while.
Oh, yeah.
I started using Discord to facilitate that, so I had to sort of go by my real name. And it's just
sure.
Stuck.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Gaz... I should know this because I talked with Gaz first, and Gaz and I have been... We've never lost touch.
Yeah.
He's a lecturer,
right,
at a university, and I want to say he teaches game design, but I might be way off, and I should know this because I literally just talked with him.
Yeah.
I'm really bad at details and paying attention. That's why I'm so glad I record these. I watched these like 2 times, and I'm like, what? I didn't even hear him say that.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, so my last question.
Sure.
And I will tell you, I've asked every single person this so far, and I don't even know what my answer is going to be.
Okay.
What do you feel or think the legacy of cdoom is? Classic Doom 3. Doom 3 Classic. What do you think the legacy is?
Yeah, I remember you mentioning that you were going to ask that, and I've been racking my brain because it's not an easy question to answer. And I think for me, it's like after that whole sort of period, and I don't know if this is at all related to the fact that after this sort of era of modding, I started working in games professionally, and so I didn't really have time to mod anymore, and that wasn't really something that I paid as much attention to anymore. But I do kind of feel like in some way it was part of an end of an era in modding. I know this was a decade after we worked on this project, but when Doom 2016 came out, that really sealed it for me that like modding wasn't a thing anymore, where they had that snap map system and they're like, hey, look, it's back to the old days and you can make stuff for our game. And it's like, well, no, this is just an in-game level editor where you get to play with pre-built parts. It's not really the same. And like, sure, people do still mod games. Weirdly, well, I don't know if it's weirdly or not, but I find it interesting that probably what seems to me like the most active area of modding these days is for Minecraft. I mean, it's the most played game, so it kind of makes sense that like people gravitate towards that. But yeah, it even sort of started to become a little bit apparent with that era of games like Doom 3 and Half-Life 2 and stuff, that it was starting to get a lot harder to make mods. And I mean because of the amount of effort that had to be put into it. Like, starting with Doom, you could make a mod, even though like there weren't any tools for it and stuff. The community had made tools, so if you knew where to get your hands on things like DU and Dehacked and stuff like that, all you had to do was make a couple of little sprites, a little 2D map of a couple of rooms, and you're like, bam, I made a thing. But once the amount of effort that had to start going into games to catch people's attention and stuff. Like, if you wanted to replace a character in any, like, modern game or whatever, you've got to have 3D modeling and texturing and rigging skills, and you've got to, know how to put all the animations together, and just a massive skill set that it's kind of untenable for the average person to accumulate all of those as a hobby. So yeah, I think it was like, to me, that era sort of felt like the turning point of like almost the end of that kind of modding. I don't know if it is or not. That's just sort of how it felt to me.
Yeah, I almost feel like that's probably fairly accurate, but at the same time, that's when my attention shifted and I stopped paying attention. I know that the Half-Life 2 mod, Black Mesa, that took like 17 years for those guys to make.
Yeah.
So I know they were going at that for a really long time, but there's a reason it has taken them 17 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's really hard to do.
And even though that came out more recent than our game, I'm pretty sure it started around the same time. Like, Doom 3 and Half-Life 2 came out the same year. And so there would have been that sort of, like, parallel thought of people going, hey, let's remake the old game. And, I mean, it took them, like, however long it took, a decade or whatever it was.
But actually, the reason I'm making...
I was just going to say, I still feel like that it's still, to me, because it started around the same time, sort of feels like that same sort of transition, end of an era kind of thing. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
No, that's true. It's like the Black Mesa project has been grandfathered in to our era.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, what I was going to say was the reason I decided to make this documentary about our project is because I saw the No Clip documentary on the Black Mesa project.
Yeah.
And the whole time I was watching it, I kept thinking, "Oh my god, I can't believe we've never told our story."
Yeah.
We released 1.0 and we just went our separate ways.
Yeah.
And when I look at YouTube comments, if I see like a playthrough, people just have so much of the information wrong, and that's just natural. We never really put it out there, and once the forum went away, the story was just gone.
Yeah, so, for sure.
I
was wondering if that was the case actually, because I saw that as well, and I've been kind of making a conscious effort to not bring up Black Mesa this whole time because I wasn't sure if that was like a path we wanted to go down. But yeah, it's kind of impossible not to think of the two together.
Yeah. Well, I think what those guys are doing is way beyond what we did.
For sure.
Not to mention they have the blessing of Valve.
Yeah. It would be kind of cool to get the blessing of id, although id now is not the same id that it used to be. No,
and I think the only nod that we got was we didn't get shut down, and that was good enough for me.
Yeah, for sure. Tiny little side note from tales of working in the games industry. I did briefly meet John Carmack once. And that
cool.
has been one of the sort of like, highlight footnotes. Like, oh, that was cool. Bucket list, tick. That was cool.
Definitely. Yeah, if I could meet John Carmack and John Romero, that would be awesome.
Haven't met Romero. Have been to a talk at GDC that he gave, but haven't actually met him.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, it is getting to dinner time.
For sure.
So I think it's good to wrap this up.
Yep.
If you think of any other, well, I'll send you the Discord link, and you can just post any stories or anecdotes if you start thinking of something.
Can do. Thanks so much for organising this, man. This has been a trip down memory lane for sure.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for contributing to it. I can't track down anyone else, so I've got interviews from everyone that I could find.
Yeah, I mean, even props for that. I wouldn't know where to start looking, so that's, that alone has been a pretty serious
Google.
effort. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. All right, man.
Cool.
So I'm gonna stop the recording.
Okay.
Don't close your browser until it says it's uploaded.
All right.
Because we would lose your recording.
I won't touch it then.
Okay, cool. All right.
Okay.
Talk to you later.
Yep. See you, man. Have a good one.